Welcome back everybody, this is Waze back with another video on the channel which is about mobile application development. So we're going to be using Ionic Framework. So one code base can be used to build mobile application for iOS, Android and also the Windows platform. So this is a website of the framework, ionicframework.com. So this is what I'm going to use. So yeah, let's get started. And I'm using macOS. Even if you're on the Windows or Linux, that doesn't really matter. This is a cross-platform framework. Use Node.js and yeah. So first thing we want to do is we are going to open a terminal. So if you're on a Windows, please open Command Prompt. And I'm just going to make this a bit bigger and a bit bigger. So first thing, we need to have two things installed. First of all, we want to make sure we have installed Node.js. Let me take you to the browser, and this is the website for Node.js. So that's nodejs.org. Now, it doesn't really matter which version of Node you guys use, either using 8.12.0 or 10.11. That should not make any difference, but I will use a long-term supported version. So LTS stands for long-term supported. So I'm going to be using 8.12.0. So basically, you want to install Node.js by simply click on that. It will start downloading the installer file. On Mac, it's .pkg file. On Windows, that's going to be exe file. So just download the version of Node, and let's go back to terminal. I'm going to check node-v. It'll tell me what version of Node I'm using. So as you can see, I'm using 8.12.0. Let me check the npm version. npm is 6.4.1. So we have successfully installed two things, Node.js and also npm. npm stands for Node Package Manager, which is a package manager used for Node to install a bunch of packages that you want to use in your application. So the next thing what we want to do is we want to make sure we install Ionic CLI. So Ionic command line interface, it's really helpful to build mobile apps with Ionic by just typing some commands on your terminal, and it will do a lot of things for you. So I'm going to go to developer and I'm going to go to framework docs. And here we want to go to Ionic 4. So Ionic 4 is in beta right now, but I'm still using Ionic 4 because that's the future installation tab. And I'm going to click on CLI installation. And here it's telling me install npm install -g Ionic. So basically npm is a Node Package Manager, install is a command, -g is a flag which tells Node Package Manager that please install this globally in your PC or in your Mac. Next, you want to go and start your application. So if you want to use the Ionic 4 application, you have to type this flag, --type is equal to Angular. So there is a lot of things that has been changed from Ionic 3 to Ionic 4. Next, we have a command to run application. Once you type this command in CLI, it will create an Angular project using Angular 6 and Ionic 4, and you can run this same and you can run the application by using this command Ionic serve. Next, I want you to install one more thing called Apache Cordova. So the command to install this is simply as npm install -g Cordova. And if you're on a Mac, you're gonna have to type sudo. So let's go back to the terminal, and here I'll type sudo npm install -g Cordova. And I'm gonna have to type password to install that in my Mac. The reason for that is because I'm installing this globally. That is why it required the password. So as you can see, Cordova is installed as well. So now we want to check the version of Ionic CLI and Cordova. So I'll type Ionic-V. It'll tell me, okay, I've got 4.1.2 CLI installed, and I'm going to check for Cordova. And I say Cordova-V, and that gives me the version of Cordova I have installed, which is 8.1.1. So at this point, we have successfully installed everything we need to start building our hybrid mobile app. Now, how do we start a new project? So being in a terminal, I'm gonna go to a folder which I will be using to create a new project. So I'll do cd document, and I'll say, let me just see, that's gonna be hybrid mobile apps. And here I've got one project, so I'm gonna create another one. So I'll simply type Ionic start. And now if I want to check what kind of project or what kind of template I want to use, then I will to check how many projects are available. So I'll type space dash dash list, and that gives me all the templates available which I can use. So I have an Angular blank template, Angular side menu, Angular tabs menu, Ionic Angular, which used the older version of Ionic, which was 3. So we want to use Ionic 4. So I'll type Ionic start, and I'll say I want to use a tabs template, and I'll flag it with type is equal to Angular. So I'll press enter, and it's going to start asking me what kind of template. So I'll just say tabs, and then I'm going to say, okay, it's asking me that integrate your new app with Cordova to target native iOS and Android. So first, we remember that we installed Cordova successfully. Now I want to type Y and press enter, and it's going to integrate Cordova with my project so I can build those apps for iOS and Android. So iOS basically don't understand JavaScript or let's say Angular. iOS only understand Objective-C or Swift. So Cordova is the guy, let's say, which will take your Angular code and convert that to Objective-C so that can be run on iOS or iPhone or iPad devices. And on the other side, Angular understand Java or Kotlin. So Cordova support Java. It will take your Angular based code and it will convert that code into Java so you can run the same application on Android as well. And it goes similar to Windows platform as well. So now it says, okay, dependencies installed. Now it's asking me install the free Ionic Pro SDK and connector app. So I don't have a paid Ionic Pro account. So I'll press N and press enter. And there you go, our project has been created. So I'm going to type ls, and I can see I have another project called tabs. So to start the application, I want to have to go inside that folder. So I'll say cd tabs. And one thing I want to mention here, that everything is possible in Windows and Linux as well. It's just basically I'm using terminal because I am on a Mac, and if you're using Windows, you use command prompt or PowerShell. So we are in the tabs folder. So I'm going to type ls-l, which gives me a list of the files and folder that I have in this folder. So I can see I have a source folder, I have a config.xml. We will go through all of these files in the next video. But first, let's start our application. So I'm going to type a command called Ionic serve. Press enter, and now it's going to open a browser which will bring us a new app, and we can actually take this to this virtual desktop so we could see that. So now it looks like it's a web page, but actually it's not a web page, it's a mobile app. So I'm going to click on these 3 dots, and I want to change this to developer tools, and then we will change from here to, let's say, iPad Pro, or we can use this for Ionic iPhone 6, 7, 8. So now I'm going to close these. Oops, I'll have to go back, guys, sorry, my bad. And I want to put this on the side. So now you can see our app is running. So we have a contact tab, about, home tab, and so far we have this application. Now, as I've shown you that you have to go to developer mode, and then you will basically make your app look like a mobile app. But there's another way that is possible. So we're gonna go to terminal and I'm gonna press Control C to stop the server which run our application, which was localhost 8100. So first let me clear the console and I'm going to type Ionic serve-l. Press enter. Now it's going to start the server, but -l is going to start our application in a lab mode. So I'll type yes. It's going to install Ionic Lab and then it will open up our server. So right now it basically didn't open up properly because it hasn't installed. Okay, so next page, it's opening now, 8200. Now there you go. So now when you type a lab, which is basically a flag that make your app look like a mobile app. So here I'm using iOS, and if I go right, I can see the same app, how it's gonna look like in Android. So you can change or you can check apps side by side for iOS and Android. So this is how you can see how my app is going to look like in Android and how it's going to look like on iOS. And believe it or not, they have a support for Windows Mobile as well. So now this is a Windows Mobile, and which basically it's really poor. It does not really show anything nice here. So we'll just turn out because Windows Mobile are dying. There's no more Windows operating system for mobile anymore. So we just target iOS and Android platform. So now if you want to kill the server, go back to terminal and then you press Control C to start the stop the server. So there you go, guys. This is how you set up your environment for building hybrid mobile apps using Ionic and Cordova. And also this is how you create a project and start your project. And trust me, it's really easy to build a mobile application right now using Ionic. All you gotta do is type some commands on the CLI and that will do a lot of things for you. We are going to take a look at how the file structure in our project is, how to create a project, also what are the templates available, and a bit about the Ionic CLI. So I am in terminal. I'm using Mac, that's why I'm using terminal here. And if you're on Windows, you can use command prompt or you can use PowerShell. Throughout this course, I'll be using Webstorm as an IDE. I think this is the best IDE for web development and also for anything JavaScript related. This is the best IDE, and also this is not a sponsored video. So let's go and create a new project. So in the last video, you remember that we installed Node.js, we set up our Ionic CLI, we set up our Cordova, we created a project. Now let's go into details about Ionic CLI, also the projects. So when you type this command, Ionic start, you are basically prompt with some of the options. So you said, okay, what is your project name? And then it's gonna ask you what kind of template do you want to use. Now there is a flag with Ionic start, and I'm gonna type space -- list, and then I'm gonna press enter. Now this is going to show me all the templates available for us to use. So right now I'm gonna expand the terminal. So you can see we have a blank side menu and tab template, and the type for them is Angular. So whenever you see a type is equal to Angular, that means you are using that template with Ionic 4 framework and Angular 6. Now we have an older Ionic framework as well, which was Ionic 3, which has the type set as Ionic Angular.
So if you select your project and you want to select template from Ionic 3 and use the same structure which was in Ionic 3, then you will use a type is equal to Ionic Angular. Now this is the latest Ionic Framework tutorial series, which is Ionic 4. So we're going to be using a type as Angular. So let's go and create a new project. Alright, so now let's go and create a new Ionic 4 project using Angular 6. So let's go to the terminal and I'm going to type Ionic start -- list. It's gonna give me the list of all the projects. So I'm going to say Ionic start, and the next we are going to type the project name, which I'm going to call it Ionic 4 Tut. And then we need to define the template that we want to use. So let's say if I don't define a template and I just say -- type is equal to Angular, press enter, and it's going to give me 3 options to choose from. So there's only 3 options available right now. The reason for that is because we already asked it to create the Ionic 4 project, and Ionic 4 only has 3 template: blank, side menu, and tabs. So let me prove my point by pressing Ctrl C and getting out of this command. And I'm going to type Ionic start, and then we say Ionic 4 Tut, and then type we said that is equal to Ionic - Angular. Press enter. Now this time it's going to give me option of about 6 template, because this Ionic - Angular basically creates an Ionic 3 project which has about 6 templates to choose from. So let me go back and press Ctrl C. Let's clear the terminal, and I'm going to type Ionic start, and I will name it Ionic 4 Tut -- type is equal to Angular. And then I'm going to choose the blank template. And next question it's asking me is about, am I targeting iOS and Android? So if we are creating an application to publish on iPhone or Android, we need a Cordova. So it's saying basically integrate a new app with Cordova to target native iOS and Android. So let's press Y and press enter. Now it's going to go and download and integrate Cordova into our application, and it's going to take a few seconds. I'm going to pause the video once the project is created, or if there is any question that come up, I will let you guys know. Now, during the product creation, the last question it would ask you is about Ionic Pro SDK. Ionic is an open source project which basically great to build your mobile application using Angular. It's fast, but also they provide some sort of pro services. So I'm going to take you to documentation, and here it says pro docs. So basically Ionic 4 or overall Ionic has the pro version, which basically gives you some extra features that you can use. For example, live deploy. We will have a separate video for each of these functions, as I have a pro account with Ionic. But for now, just quickly a brief introduction to Pro. Ionic is basically it generates your native packages in the cloud. It can do live deploy without going to App Store or Play Store. It can monitor your apps. For example, if your app crashes, why it crashes, it will monitor all those bugs. So there's cool things about Ionic Pro, which we'll talk about later. Let's go back, and I'm going to press N, and then I'm going to press enter. Now at this stage our project is created, and I'm going to use a Webstorm to open this project. So let's click on open, and I'm going to go and target that folder which was in documents, test project, Ionic 4 Tut, and I'm going to click on open. So throughout this tutorial series I'll be using Webstorm, which I think is a great IDE by JetBrains, and it's not a sponsored video guys, it's just Webstorm or any overall JetBrains product is great. So here is a folder for Ionic Tut 4 project, and I'm gonna go through to all these files. Alright guys, so now let's go over to the folder structure and the file structure of our Ionic 4 project. So first of all, let's take a look at this resources folder. Basically, all your assets, your icon, your splash screen images, or whatever image that you're going to be using in your application, that will go into your resources folder. The reason why Ionic has this set up separately is because the the Android require different kind of resolution for your assets. iOS require different kind of resolution for your assets. So Ionic and Cordova basically handle that automatically for us. So if you want to build a project for iOS, you type a command on your Ionic CLI and it will prepare your resources, required resources for iOS or required resources for your Android. That's very simple. Now let's go to some files outside our source folder. Git, if you're familiar with Git, you know what this git ignore file does. You will list out all the folders which you don't want to be included in your Git repository. Angular.json, this is some configuration for your Angular. So we can go through this later whenever we need something from this file during the course. But let's move on. Config.xml is a really important file in your Ionic project. So basically it will list out your Ionic ID, a version of your application, a description, a title of your application. Also, it will list out all the platforms, and then it will list out all the resources link for that particular platform in this file. Also, all the plugins used from Cordova in your application will be here. We have a package.json file, which is important as well. It lists out all our dependencies. Here you can see we're using Angular, we're using Ionic. It lists out all the dependency, dev dependencies. We can define scripts as well for our custom builds. There's not much to look into these files. These are just default files getting generated from Ionic. I will go through these files whenever we need to understand any property or any configuration from these files. Let's go to the source folder. The first folder inside the source folder is the app folder, which will have all your Angular code. So all your components, your services, your pages, directives will be inside this app folder. Next, we have assets folder. Assets folder will list out your one icon image that will be used by Cordova or let's say Ionic to basically generate all your resources from this one file. These are some environment variables. We have a theme. We have a variable.sass file, which is a global file, and you can use these some of the color schemes defined by Ionic throughout your application. And this is just a global Sass file for you to use. We have a global Sass file. Here we can list out all your basically CSS, and here we require this variable.sass file as well. Next, we have an index.html file. Basically, this is the entry point for your Ionic app. We have some testing files. Karma is used to test your application. We have some polyfills, main. So main.ts is the entry file for your Angular project, or let's say Ionic project. This is like a startup file, which basically lists out, this is a module that we want to use. And we have defined that module in app.module. That's our app component. So here we have a tsconfig, which lists out some more configuration. Let's talk about this later. Now in this video, we are going to learn Ionic CLI. So first of all, we will add iOS platform to our project. So let me just bring my CLI to the right so we can look at the commands that are right. So have a look at this folder structure. Right now we have a source folder, resources folder, E2C folder, node modules folder. So now I'm going to type a command here, Ionic Cordova platform add iOS, I'm going to press enter. Now it's adding iOS to our project using Cordova Fetch or Cordova iOS version 4.5.0. Alright, so as you guys can see, the platform is being added. So if I go to our project viewer, we can see there's a platform that named iOS. So when I click on that, I can see the file structure that can be opened in Xcode. So if you are familiar with Apple's Xcode, which is an IDE for iOS, Mac, iPad app development, that project can be opened directly there. So now most of you will be familiar with Java, Android projects. So here we can add Android project as well. So I'm going to type Ionic Core. Let me just make this bigger if I'm able to. No, I'm not. So Ionic Cordova. I'll keep my mouse cursor here. Platform, add Android. Now it's going to go and download the Android Cordova version of 7.1.1. It's going to take a few minutes or a few seconds depending on your computer and your internet connection. Once it adds the Android platform, then we'll go and talk about these. Okay, so the Android project is there as well. So here you can see we have an Android project and iOS project. Now, just to get you familiar with CLI commands, you can remove project as well. So if I go Ionic Cordova platform remove Android, it will go and remove the platform from our project. So here you can see removing platform Android from config.xml file and a Cordova.platform array in package.json file. So let's take a look at here in the platform folder. We don't see an Android folder anymore. So if I go and open package.json file, here we can see that we have a platform listed iOS, but we don't see Android. So let's go back to terminal and we can add iOS platform. Sorry, the platform is already there. It says platform iOS already exists, so we can add Android platform. So I'm going to click on Ionic Cordova platform, add Android. Now it's going to go and download Cordova Android again, and then it's going to basically create a platform for us. Now these are the basic commands in Ionic CLI to remove and add a project. Once the Android project gets added to our project, we'll add another type of project called a browser. So we could run our application in the browser while developing. And to test our application, we can use actual device. So I'm just waiting for this platform to add. Alright, so right now you can see it's generating resources, 18 resources generated. Now platform is added. There we can see platform iOS and Android is listed in package.json file. Also we can take a look at config, and in config we have a platform iOS with a platform Android. Now I'm gonna add, let's go and clear the terminal. I'm gonna add Ionic Cordova platform, add browser. So we're going to add a browser platform to our project as well. So we can do all the development, test of our application in terms of functionality in our browser, and then we can run this application to the actual device, whether it's iOS or Android device or even a Windows device, guys. So once this gets added, the first thing we want to do is we want to emulate this project. So let me go and open the Chrome browser first. Okay, so the browser project has been added. We can take a look at a platform folder, and we can look at our package.json file, which should have browser as a platform as well. I'm going to take my terminal back to the bottom so we could look at the project and the files. I'm going to clear the terminal, and the next what we want to do is we want to run our application onto a browser. So I'll say Ionic Cordonva emulate browser. Okay, now it's gonna go and build our project, and right now we can see www folder is empty, but when the first time we build our project, it will not be empty anymore. It will have all the JSON and a production version of our code listed into www folder. So the first time we're building this project, that's why it's taking a bit longer. Alright, so as you can see, it took a few seconds or few minutes depending on your computer, and now our application is up and running. Now this is how you emulate your application to your browser. Now the reason why I've shown you the first is because when you emulate your project to your browser using Cordonva, it will put all your native functionality to the browser as well. But for just development purpose, we don't have to emulate our project to a browser. But what we can do is, I'm going to press Ctrl C and let's clear the terminal. And instead of using Ionic Cordonva emulate browser, I'm going to use a simple command, which is Ionic serve. Now this is going to do the same thing. It's going to build our project. As you can see, this www folder is not empty anymore, and now it clearly says our project is running on localhost 8100. Also, the external IP that we can target 192.168.1.7 8100. So it's going to build a project and it's going to show that into the browser. Now there are pros and cons using Ionic Cordonva emulate browser, but we will talk about these later in the course. Now as you can see, our project is running. Now the last command I want to show you is Ionic serve-l. Now -l is basically Ionic, a library you have to install in your project, which will basically make our application look like it's running on a mobile. So right now it's asking me, its Ionic Lab is not installed. You want to install it. I'll type Y and then I'll press enter. Now it's going to go and download Ionic Lab for me and start my server using Ionic Lab. Now once our server starts, as you can see here, we have iOS version and we have an Android version of our application, which is great. So you can take a look at the UI of iOS and also the Android version. So I don't really run this in development, but as just to let you guys know, this is available for you. So if you do Ionic serve-l, it's gonna run your server on Ionic Lab, which will show your app as it's running on your native device. I'm going to show you how you can emulate your project to iOS simulator. I'm using Mac. One thing to mention here, you will have to have a Mac to develop application for iOS platform. So let's get started. So this is an app. In the last video, we've seen how we can do Ionic serve, and then that will open a browser and it will launch our application. Now also we want to emulate this project to an actual iOS simulator. For that, you need to make sure that you have few software installed. For example, I'm gonna go and open Xcode. Now Xcode is an IDE developed by Apple, and it's basically used to develop native iOS applications. Now to install Xcode, you want to go to App Store on your Mac and simply search for Xcode here. Now here you will see an Xcode and you will click on download. You will see get, click on get, and then you download that. Now we are using Xcode version 10, which is the latest version of Xcode. So here I'll type Ionic Cordova Emulate iOS, and here first of all I want to check how many devices do we have in our system we could use to emulate. So I'll say -- list, and I press enter. It will go read Xcode and it will give me the list back. So I'm going to move my terminal to the right so we could see. So these are the devices that I can emulate to, and it basically shows us the iOS version as well. I could use iOS 12 or iOS 11.2. So now let's clear the console or terminal. So I'm going to type here Ionic Cordova Emulate iOS -- target. So target is a flag which lets you specify a device that you want to emulate to. So I'll say -- target is equal to, and let's emulate this project to iOS 12 with iPhone 8. So I'll say iPhone -8, and then I'll press enter or return on a Mac. So it's doing all its stuff. So I can see my emulator now on the screen, and also I can see this Ionic blank template. Okay, so this is how you start your emulator and upload your project to iOS Simulator. Now, another platform that we want to build an application for is Android. Now, it is pretty straightforward to emulate your project to Android as well. So basically, instead of writing this command, Ionic Cordova Emulate iOS, you will just simply say Ionic Cordova Emulate Android, and then use the same flag -- target is equal to iPhone 8. Welcome to my Windows PC. So to emulate your Ionic project to Android simulators, you're going to need to install Android Studio. So if you go to developer.android.com/studio, here you can download Android Studio, which is about 923 megabytes. I've already downloaded and installed Android Studio, as you can see at the bottom, and it's already up and running. Now what I did basically, I just created a new project. So if I go and close this project, you will see this screen. All you have to do is create a new project. So let's go create a new project. He'll type the name, go to next, and then eventually you will see this kind of a folder, and you will see stuff like this. Now once you open a project, you want to go to Tools menu and want to go to AVD Manager. Now let me explain what is AVD Manager. So basically it lists out all your virtual devices. Now let's go to Webstorm and let's try loading these devices. So I'm going to close this, close Android Studio as well. Let's open up Webstorm. And this is a project that I'm working on right now called Expenses. It's the expense logger app with a lot more functionality that you find in the usual application which does this job. So let's get back to work. So I'm going to type Ionic Cordova Emulate Android -- list. Now it's going to give me the list of emulators. So here I have an Nexus 5X, Nexus 6, and Pixel. Now to run this project to Pixel or any of the devices, I can specifically type -- target is equal to the device name. Let's run our application on Nexus 6. So I'm going to type Ionic Cordova Emulate Android target is equal to Nexus 6. Now one thing to mention here, the name of the device is case sensitive. So if it has a capital letter, you must have a capital letter. So I'm going to press enter now, and now it's going to go and build a project, and now it's going to run on an emulator using Nexus 6 device and the Android version that you would see in Android Studio when we open that. So I'm not sure what version it's running right now, but it's something's running. So let's take a look at how long it takes to run the emulator. It's building the project. Okay, it says build successful in 6 seconds. As you can see, our emulator is getting online. Now this is an application that it actually ran. So yeah, that's pretty much it is, guys, for this video, and this is how you use and emulate your project into Ionic using Ionic CLI to iOS and Android.
We're going to take a look at the code itself. We've learned so far how to emulate projects to Android devices and iOS devices. We also learned how we can add platforms like Android, iOS, and browser. And we have covered the basics of Ionic, basically the workflow and the tools you need to set up to basically start developing an Ionic, or we can say hybrid mobile app. So right now I'm going to go and show you guys what is the project structure, what each file does. So first of all, I have created a blank project. So if you create a new project and you will use the template blank, this is what you're gonna get. So there is pretty much nothing's changed. So you go Ionic start blank and name of the project. So I've shown you how to create a project, right? So I'm starting with the blank template. Now this is the template that we're going to be using. The source code is going to be available on my GitHub account, so I'll link to that as well. So we'll do Ionic -L. So -L flag basically will help us to reload our application. It will show our application into native looking devices. But at the end of the day, you still want to test on the actual simulator, whether it's iOS or Android. Now this is our application is running. I'm just gonna make this a little bit like this, and then we don't need to keep the terminal up and running. Now that's it. So the first of all, let's go through the project structure. So we have seen some of the project structure in the previous video, but let's go into details. Now the first thing, you will see a source folder which will have everything related to your app. I want to go to main.ts. So the main.ts file is an entry point. It's an entry point for the whole application. Here you can see that we basically import enable product mode, which is right now it's not true because we are developing. So we have a platform, browser dynamic, bootstrap module, app module, and then that's what we imported. So here we have an app module. So we go to app, and this is the app module. So basically the main.ts file is telling the compiler that, okay, this is our main entry module. Start our application from here. Now, once you start your application, it will go and then do all its processing related to Angular stuff. So this is nothing more than Angular module with some Ionic modification. So right now, if you are familiar with Angular, you feel at home. So we have ng module, we have a declarations, we define all the components here. We have an entry components, which is basically empty right now. We imported browser module, Ionic module for root, and app routing module. So in Ionic 4, we have a different lazy loading concept. So we lazy load a different module. So here we basically create the module. This is an entry module for our app. Next we have app routing module, which is imported by app module. So we go to app routing module. Let's take a look at app routing module. So basically what's happening here, we have two routes defined in routes variable, which has a type of routes. Now we actually imported a router module, and we pass in this routes variable. Now what I want to do is I want to explain what is lazy loading. Basically, let's say that you have your application of about 500 pages or 1000 pages. Now, when you start your application, if you are willing to load those 10,000 or 1,000 pages, your application is going to be loaded. It's going to take a lot of time to load that application. So this is where lazy loading comes into play.
Basically, you load an application, you load just one specific main module, and then you load the rest of the modules depending on the browser URL or depending on which one you requested. So what I want to do here, I want to go and create a couple of modules, separate pages with separate module, and then we will link to those. So here we can see we have lazy loaded this page home. So basically it says go to this route if there is no route defined, and it redirects to home, which again matches with this path, and it says path match is set to full. Now it's going to go to this module by default. So let's go to terminal, and I'm going to create a new terminal here, and here I'm going to type a command Ionic G. Now it tells me what kind of stuff I want to generate. So I'll say I want to generate a page, and I would say, okay, let's say about us page. I'm going to press enter. Now it's going to generate a module for us. It's going to generate the page for us, and it's going to automatically load that to our app routing module. As you can see, now we have about us, which basically links to about us module, which is here, and then we have this about us page module, which is basically the name of the module, nothing more than that. So I'm just going to close this. Now we want to create another page. Let's just say contact. Press enter. Now it's going to create a page of contact. Also, it's going to create a module. So basically, when you go inside a module, you see it has a route, path set to empty, and it defines the component. It imports the component as well. So let's close this as well. Now let's say that we don't see these automatically loaded, but we want to write our own. So basically, you simply go and define a path. You type it in the path you want to match according to the URL in your browser, and then you type a key load children, and then you specify a path to the folder, which is basically here about us, and then next you say go inside this folder, look for this file about us.module.ts file, which is defined here, and then you define a hash. And I'm saying basically go inside this folder, go to this about us.module file, and then go inside this file and then look for about us page module. And if I look at about us page module here, you can see it basically has a routing implemented. So it has this about us page component implemented in this module. So how do I link to this now? There's various ways that you can do navigation using Angular in Ionic 4, but let's take a look at. So we want to go to the home, which is basically a simple route, which basically if there is no route, it will go to the home, which we actually define here app routing module. So right on the top, so go to redirect to home if there is no URL there. Okay. So now I'm just going to get rid of this. Okay, I'm going to save this. Now there's nothing here, so I'll just go and create, let's just say use Ion button. We do, let's just say, then we want to go to, let's just do an anchor tag, and we'll do href, and here I define simply I want to go to, let's go back to app routing module. So I want to go to about us. Let's copy this and paste that here, and I'll say about us. Let's save it, and you will see a button. I don't see the name here, so maybe about us here. We'll type it in. That's fine. And we just want to get rid of this as well. Or we can define, we can do href here slash about us. Let me just remove that. Okay, so now if I click on about us, that will take me to the about us module, and it loads that component. So if I go to about us module, and here it'll take us to here, and they will load this about us page.
Now let's go to contact, and here we have this component there. I'm gonna go back to home, not home, sorry, home, yes. So home page, and then here I want to add another button, and then here I'll do and find app property model. That's just the contact. We copy that and we go to, let's just close my stuff here, and let's just do contact here. I'm gonna save this. Now we have two buttons, about us, and then we can say contact. Now let's go to contact page, and here I would like to define a button. Oops, not that one. Let's make it bigger. So button, sorry, ion dash button. Oops, not badge. What I'm doing, button, and we do href, and we say dash home. Save it. Similar, we want to copy this. We want to go to about us page, and we want to paste it here as well. Let's save this. Now we can navigate between these files. So let me just say home here, and then we have a content page. I want to say home page here. Okay, so now if I click on home, it'll take me back to the home module and will load this home page. And if I go to contact, it takes me to contact page, and then I have another button here to the contact page, and I can go back to home. So as you can see, we basically can do a lazy loading here. So routing with the lazy loading. All right, so that's about this video, guys. In the next video, we're gonna take a look at how we can use some of the components provided by Ionic library. We're gonna take a look at how we can use action sheet in your application. Now, action sheets are great when you have to have some sort of a pop-up which will get the user to type in an option. So this is action sheet. So for example, if you want to delete some component or delete some value, I can say, hey, you want to delete, click on delete. You want to share, you click on share, play, model, favorite, and cancel. So we're going to create this model in this video, but you might be thinking, what am I doing here? There's a lot of things happening here already. So for that, I'm actually going to create a new project, and then in that project, so let me just open the terminal first, and then here in the terminal, let me just make it bigger for you guys. And let's do this. Now in the terminal, I'm going to create a new Ionic 4 project, and then we will add action sheets to it. Type, and I want to make that to Angular. I'll press enter. Now it's going to ask me what will be your project name. So I'll say Ionic tutorial, and then what template do I want to use. So if you are creating your application with the tabs UI, you can select tabs, which will automatically generate a code for you where you will have some tabs already placed for you to use. We want to work on side menu, then you will use side menu template, which will already have some sort of code which will generate a side menu for you. But what we want to do here is we want to create a blank template, and then using that blank template, we want to learn how to implement some components, and after that we will learn how we can create a UI including tabs and a side menu. So we want both into place. So let's get started with blank template. So I'm going to select that, and it's going to go and download. Now it's asking me integrate your new app with Cordova to target native iOS and Android. I'll say, yeah, why not? I'll just integrate Cordova to my application. Right, so the project is nearly done. Now basically it's asking me whether I want to integrate my Ionic project to Ionic Pro SDK. Well, I don't have an account as of yet now for Ionic Pro, so that's why I'm going to say N and press enter. Alright, so our project is created. Now I'm going to open that project in Webstorm. So let's open Webstorm. And here, let's take it to that window there. Okay, so now I'm gonna go and click on open. We're gonna navigate to that folder, Ionic tutorial, and I'm going to open that. Now this is a similar project that we just created in the last video. It's a blank project. It's got nothing more than just a boilerplate code to run our application. So we're going to go inside this, and I'm going to go to terminal, and I'm going to simply type a command ionic serve-l. I'm going to click on this browser, so it will go and open that. So now before we can open this project into a lab, we need to install Ionic Lab. Say Y, press enter, and it's going to install Ionic Lab now, and then it will open our application. As you can see, after installing Ionic Lab, it automatically opened the app. So right now we're looking at iOS version of our application, but we can take a look at Android and also Windows. I'm just going to scroll down. This is Android, guys, and that's Windows down there. So we continue with Android and Windows. So let's take a look at the code. Now in the source folder, as I explained in the last few videos about this blank project, so we're going to go to app, and here we have this app module. The app module is the main module of your application. We have an app routing module, which I've already explained to you guys how the routing and a lazy routing works in Angular 4. So here we have this app routing module. App module, we have an app component. We have an app component.html file where we have this Ionic app with Ion router outlet. Basically, let's take a look at the outer outlet. What it does, if you're familiar with Angular, it will tell the application this is where I want to start my routing. So this is the main entry point for your routing. So now what we want to do here, we want to learn how we can create an action sheet. So I'm going to go to app component, or we can simply go to our home page and do our action sheet, because app component is nothing more than just a placeholder for routing. It does not really have anything. So basically when the application starts, it looks at this Ion router and it goes to the routing module and looks at what it's supposed to load. We go to app routing module, and here we can say if there is no path, it will redirect to home. So we want to do all our logic home. So let's go to home page, and here if I'm just gonna go and remove all this, and I'll say, hey, I want to have Ion button, okay, and then inside this I'll say hello action sheet. We press command S, it will save the project and we'll open that into our app. So here we can see we have this hello action sheet button, which does not do anything as of now. So what we want to do, we want to create an action sheet, but I'm going to take you to a documentation for this, so you can go and continue learning after you learn how to implement these kind of UI components. So here we have an action sheet, slide up from the bottom edge of the device and display the set of options with ability to confirm or action or cancel action. So action sheet can sometimes be used as an alternative to menus, however, they should not be used for navigation. So we go to API, and in API, it'll give us some sort of code snippet which we can use. So now I'm going to go back to the code, and here we'll just open home.ts file where we want to do our logic. And then here, I'm going to create a constructor function. Constructor, I'll say public, and I'll say action. Alright guys, so I've fast forwarded the function. So basically, let me go and explain the function, what we've done so far. So in the constructor, we added this action sheet controller service, and I stored that service into the variable name called action sheet. And then we created a function, which is an async function, and I named it present action sheet. And then inside that function, we created a const variable, which basically have this async and await Now we are using this action sheet, which I injected into this constructor function, and then we call the method .create, and then we got some few properties to define, so we could show the action sheet. So we have a header. What would be the header of the action sheet? What is the mode of our action sheet? Any buttons available in action sheet, so we can define as many buttons as we want. And then after that, we have this await action sheet.present method, which will basically create an action sheet and then make it appear. Right, so now we have this function. I'm going to put this function and call it when I click on this button. So we go to the homepage.html, and here I'll use a click, and then I'll just call it present action sheet. I'll save the project, and now our compiling should be done in like 5 seconds. Yes, it's done. I'm going to click on hello action sheet, and there we go. So we have an action sheet, so I can click on it and then it'll just disappear. So now if I go to, let's just say homepage.ts, and here I have had a handler on the button. Basically it's a function that will be called once you click that button. So let me go to the console here in the browser, and I want to show you that when I click on the button, we'll see you clicked me on the console. So I click on that, and then I'll just go down and I click on that cancel button, and there you go. We see you clicked me. So you can see that we can call any functions from anywhere in our application on this button. So this is very useful if you want to perform any action. And also, just to mention that you can add multiple buttons here. So for example, this is one button in an array we have. I'm just gonna move this array down so it's better and cleaner to look at. So here I'm just gonna copy this, and I'm gonna add a comma here. I'm gonna add another button, and I'll just say role would be, let's just say destructive. All right, and then the text would be hello. Icon, we can say add. I'm gonna save the file, and I'm gonna here say you added me. Okay, I'm gonna save the file again, and let's take a look at, do we get two buttons now? So if I click on this button to close the console, I click on this, now we get this button hello and a cancel. So here we defined a role that has this cancel, so it will go down. But if we have another button, we define a role to destructive. That means it will go into the list. So we can have like a multiple buttons here with a destructive role. So I'll just go make another one, comma, make another one, and I save the project. And this time, when I click on that hello action sheet, you'll see multiple buttons appearing. So I'll click on this, and here we have multiple buttons. I'm gonna go to console and just clear this thing out. Now we're going to go to action sheet. I'm going to click on one of the buttons. It says you added me. If I click on that, I click on cancel button. You see that you clicked me. So you can perform any kind of action onto one of these buttons. All right, so this was a quick introduction to how you can use the components using their classes. We will be learning how we can use a component, a library provided by Ionic. So Ionic apps are made of high-level building blocks called components. And components allow you to quickly construct an interface for your app. And Ionic comes with a number of components including modals, pop-up, and cards. We're going to take a look at what's available in Ionic, and I'm going to show you how you can use it. Now, before we start, I would like to give you a demo. Why do you even bother using components or UI provided by Ionic? Now here we have a same application running for iOS, Android, and a Windows platform. And I know Windows platform is dying and Ionic is not really supporting anymore, but we have a third option here. When you start your application with the flag -L, you get this lab. So here you can see how your application is going to look like on iOS and Android and Windows. So now if I click on this button, which basically it's a fab, so let's see, I click on that, I get this action sheet. So you probably use a lot of mobile application on iPhone, so you see this action sheet a lot in your iPhone application. Now, similar to Android, we're going to take a look at, if I tap here, it shows me the action sheet, but look at the UI. UI is pretty much Android looking UI. So you see this kind of UI in a stock Android phones, for example Nexus series from Google. So this is a stock Android UI. Now we have this Windows, which is going to make you laugh. So if I click here, you get this sort of things here, because Windows platform is not supported anymore, and I don't know why they kept that in Ionic. But so you got the idea. So benefits of using Ionic components is that you write one HTML, you write one HTML with a couple of CSS classes, and Ionic take the responsibility of making your app look native to the specific platform. For example, if they're running on iOS, then app is going to look like it's a native app on iOS, even though the whole app is running on it's running on platform's web component. We'll talk about that web UI kit that provided by different platforms. So now let's take a look at the documentation of Ionic. So here we have Ionic action sheets, we have alerts. So here if I click on action sheets, it says show action sheet. It's a bit slow, but it's going to show you this is the action sheet that you can use. Now what you can do here, you can basically use this one code and just put that in an application, and when you build a code for a specific platform, that will automatically be converted to make it look like native. So we have alert, we have a badges, we have buttons. So let's take a look at the buttons. So these are the buttons available that you can use, and it's going to look like these in your iOS. So you see cards everywhere on iPhone applications. We have a checkbox, and that's going to be a checkbox for your both platforms. We have date and time. So now you see a lot of applications have this date picker that you can choose a date from. That seems very complicated to create, but Ionic provide this nice little code snippet of code which you can use in your application and will show a date picker. So if I just take this and I copy this and I just paste that into my application, so let me put that into somewhere. Let's just go to home tabs. I know you guys can't see it, but I'll show you these later. So I'm just going to put that simple UI into one of the applications we're running. So I'm going to paste this here. Let's save it. Now let's go back to our application, guys. And here we have this date picker. So if I click on that, there you go. I can, pick the date for iPhone. Now if I click here, I can pick the date here as well. It didn't actually work on iPhone, but we can customize it. We can do it. We can customize it later, specific to the platform. We have a fab. Fab is really cool. That basically gets you a button which has some Z index, so it stays on the top of all the other components in your application. For example, I have created this button, the plus button, with the help of Fab. So if there was no Fab, that would be very hard to create this kind of a button. So that basically stays on the top of all the components you have. You have a grid. Grid is basically used to create a layout in your application. For example, you want to customize the layout of your page and you want to have some smaller cards, bigger cards, so use a grid. A grid is great. Infinite scroll. So a lot of applications have this kind of infinite scroll, guys. So you can just keep scrolling and the data will be loading according to your scroll. So what happens is if you wanna, if you are working on an application where you have a lot of data sets and you're not able to fit those data sets in just a small screen. So what you can do is you can use this infinite scroll, and basically the amount of data you can load and that screen, that will only be loaded. But when you go scroll down, it will load the next data into an array or in an object. I'll show you how you can use it later, but let's go through quickly what are available. So we have our input fields available. We can still customize that, list is there, loading. Loading is one of the cool things that Ionic provides. It's really easy to create as well. So if I click on show loading, that'll show you this kind of loading, please wait. So a lot of applications use this kind of loadings when they want to load the data. Basically, they make an API call to some server running in the world, and then they wait for data to be received. And during that time, you don't want your user to just stare at your application without knowing anything. So what do? You create a loading so that user knows that something is coming, so they gotta wait. We have a menu. Menu is really great. It's easy to use. So if I tap here, and then I can see the menu bar. We have a model. Model is one of the other great UI component provided by Ionic. So if I click on one of these, you'll pop the model up, and I can have the page, which basically a model, not an exact page, and I can use that for all the components that I want to put in. This basically is used mostly for sign up and login page, which don't really require to be there all the time. So you create those on the go by maybe creating a button, pressing on that, and you create a model. Nav. Let's go to nav. So nav, basically, you see in iPhone applications, there's a lot of child component that you want to show, then you use nav. So one nav can create a model or another nav inside this, and then that nav can have another nav inside this. So you can just continue doing basically child to child and child to child components. Popover. Let's take a look at popover. So popover is like you have some sort of text going at the back, and you see when I scroll down, you see the popover and you see the text just a little bit blur. That means popover. Now let's take a look at range. There's a lot of time you want to maybe increase or decrease some sort of a UI or CSS or something in your application, then you can use this kind of component. That's really, really great. Sometimes you want to change the data and you want to have some sort of UI which helps you to do that, and this is great. Refresher. Now, a lot of times people go to one of the page in your application and then they want to refresh the data. For example, the data is coming from the backend and you go to the page, and during while you were on the page, the data updated in the backend, and your API basically doesn't trigger any event or doesn't really emit the data to the front end. So what do? You create a refresher and you get the user to tap and swipe down, and that makes the refresher. Now on that event, you can call the API and load some more data, and obviously you're going to be using Angular with Ionic to create all this logic. This is just a UI component which is great and very easy to implement in our application, but obviously the backend logic, the backend code in Angular will be done by us. We have a search bar, we have a select, so a lot of ways you can select. We have this female gender selection, game selection, there you go. We have notification selection, and there's different types of selection that you can customize. Slides. Now, a lot of time when your application loads for the first time, you see some sort of introduction of your application. So that means they basically create slides. Slides are very easy to create with Ionic. All you do is just copy paste this and fill the data in, and that's what goes into your slides. Really good stuff. If you want to create the same kind of slide in your native Android or iPhone or Windows code, I think you're gonna take much longer. It's gonna take much longer to implement and make it look like that nice. Spinners. A lot of times you want to have spinners there. Yep, we have spinners. Tabs are really a core component that is required for any application. You go to iPhone or Android. Now, all the bigger enterprise level applications have some sort of tabs UI that you have the tabs at the bottom. So I can show you this. This is the tab as well. Now we will learn how we can create an interface including tabs, also with a menu bar. So right now I don't see a menu bar here, but we will implement that later. So toast, a great way to show some sort of a message on an event to the user. For example, if they are going to sign in, and once they sign in, there should be a message that you successfully logged in. So if I tap here, you see the toast here, and it stays for a few milliseconds or 1 second, 2 seconds. You can define the time there as well. So click here, and there we go. So we got different sort of toast available. Virtual scroll. So we have a virtual scroll. So it says your file was successfully. Now it's gonna go all the way to 500 entries. That's called a virtual scroll. Now these are the components that are provided by Ionic Framework. Now as we are learning not Angular 4, but Ionic 4, which means this documentation is not a stable documentation. This is a beta documentation, and they will be adding a lot more components, a lot more information to these documents. Now if I take you to the documentation of the older version, which will give you some more UI components. So let's go here, and we're gonna go to Ionic Framework, and then here I'm gonna go to developer, and I'm gonna go to framework docs. Now this is Ionic 3 docs. Here you can see Ionic 4 is coming, but we already started learning Ionic 4 because it's pretty much done. We basically got what we need to build application with Ionic 4, but there's going to be a lot of improvements will be coming in, but the structure and the core technology is there already. So if I go to components, you'll see a lot more options here compared to, I think there's not much more, but maybe a toolbar is another one that you have here. So you see this footer toolbar, stuff like that. So yeah, that's about it, guys, and thank you so much for watching this video. That was just a quick overview of what's available in Ionic 4, what are the UI components, and in the next video we'll learn how we can implement some of the nice components, UI components, into our application. We're going to take a look at some more UI components available in Ionic 4. So the first component that I want to show you is alert. Alert are great ways to offer the user the ability to choose a specific action or list of actions. Alert can include text input, buttons. They can provide the user with important information or require them to make a decision. So what is an alert? Alert is a dialog that presents users with information or collects information from the user using inputs. An alert appears on the top of your app content and must be manually dismissed by the user before they can resume interaction with the app. It can also optionally have headers, subheaders, and messages. Also, you can add buttons, you can have inputs, you can do a lot more stuff in alerts, but they're not recommended if you have some sort of functionality that you want to perform. So basically, if you need a sign-up form and it's got a lot of information, I will recommend you guys use a model instead of alert. We'll take a look at what is a model later in the course. So let's get started with creating an alert. Let's go to home.page.ts file, and here you can see I have imported alert controller, and also I've injected that into a construction function so we could use that in our class. So now let's get started with creating a simple alert. I'm going to start with defining async function, which I'll call it present alert. And then we create a constant. So I'll just do a const, and I'll say this is an alert that I'm creating, and then I'll do await this dot alert. Actually, I forgot to change the name of this action sheet to alert controller. So alert controller. I was using the same file in the last video, so this is why I had that. So it's this dot alert controller dot create. We pass in an object, and that's going to take a header, which we pass in alert. And then another value, you can take a subheader as well. So do sub alert. I'm going to put that into single quotes. So sub alert. Now we can say what is the message of that alert. So we'll do message, and then inside that I'll say, hey, this is the alert message. And then also we're going to put that comma there. And then we can have a button. So do buttons, and then that should take a button OK. And then we can simply go and present it. So just alert dot present. Okay, I'm gonna save the file and let's go and wait for it to compile. So it's compiled now. I'm gonna click here. That should present an alert. So it's not. So we're gonna go back to home.page and then we type in click event, which will take present alert, save it, wait for it to compile the project, and then when you click on it, you should be able to see alert. So here we have alert subheading and a message and a button which will dismiss the alert. All right, let's go to Ionic documentation, and here I'm going to take you to alert, and let's click on API, which will tell us what's available for us to use from alert. So here you can see we have buttons, we have inputs, we have the usage and code snippet as well that you can use. So here you can see we have a simple alert which we just created, a long message alert, that's what we can create, multiple button, cancel, open modal, delete, so you can perform an action depending on what you want to do. So let's take a look at that. So here, I would like to go and create an action sheet when I click on present alert. So let's go back, and here we want to go, and I'm just gonna make it a bit smaller so we can see it. First of all, let me just import action sheet controller. That would be from Ionic Angular. And then I'm just gonna inject that as well. So I'll just do private action sheet controller. That's fine. So now here I'm going to do a handler for a button. I'm gonna remove OK. Instead of passing a string, we pass in an object now. Here we define a text, and I'll say cancel. Role would be cancel as well. That goes into string. And then here we do handler, and I'm gonna pass in an event here. So not an event, basically a function when you get clicked. So what do you want to do? So we do console.log and I say you clicked me. So you clicked me. Okay, so now I can pass in another button, so we can have a multiple button here. So we just do a comma, and then I'm gonna pass in text, okay, and then we don't define a role now. We just simply say, let's just do CSS class. We can do secondary, and then we can pass in another handler. So do a handler. Then we do, okay, so here what I want to do, I'll do console.log, and I say the second handler. All right, and I'm gonna save the project. There's an error. It's basically a TS-lin error, not an actual coding error. So let's go and take a look at what happens when we have this. So here we have action button, action alert, and okay, action alert, I can see OK button and then cancel button. Now I'm gonna add another button here, guys, and I'm just gonna name it open model. So let's just do action sheet, not a model, action sheet, right? And then I'm just gonna make it, let's just say primary. All right, so I've removed console log. So here in handler, we want to start with typing async, and then we'll do an arrow function here. And then inside this, we are going to create an action sheet. So here, You can see I've already imported action sheet controller and injected that in a constructor as well. So let's go down, and here we want to start writing our action sheet. So here I'll just create a const, and I'll do action is equal to, then we do await this dot action sheet dot create, and that also takes an object and takes some properties that can be used. So we'll do some sort of header. Also we'll define some buttons here as well. So I'm gonna do header, and I'll just say testing action. Then also we can define a role as well. Well, let's not define a role, let's define an icon, and let's do trash. And then we can also define a handler to this. So that's not gonna go there, so we need to define a button, guys. So as I've shown you how you can do it, so let's just do a button here, and then the first button text is going to be test, and then we'll do role. We can define a role to cancel. Then we have handler again, and then inside the handler we use arrow function syntax, and we do console.log a hello. Okay, I'm gonna save the project, and now we should see an action sheet. But before we can see that, we need to present that. So here I'll find this action sheet, and I'll find this this curly brace, and after this we want to do await this dot action dot present. Okay, now while we're here, so we don't need this, we just simply use await action dot present, and that's pretty much it is. So we're just gonna decrease the text size, and let's take a look at, so we click on this, we get an action. I'm gonna click on open action sheet, click on this, and you see the action sheet as well. So that's cool, isn't it? So you can define alert, or you can define action sheet, and you can perform any kind of action while a user clicking on that. So that's really cool. Now I'm going to take you some of the documentation of Ionic, and let's take a look at some of the things that we need to know about this documentation, how to use this documentation, and how you can improve your knowledge of Ionic and improve your workflow plus creativity plus productivity using these documentation. So now you can see we have a lot more options. Here we can create these kind of alerts. So here we have a long message alert, we have a multiple button alert which we created, alert no message, we have a confirm and cancel button. Also, we have some sort of a form that can take data from user and perform an action on OK or dismiss the alert on cancel. So let's take a look at, we have creating. So this is how you create a alert using alert controller. Then we can define the buttons. We can define inputs using inputs. This is a code snippet that you can use. All the way down, we can see we have a properties. Now the properties are basically a value that you can use to do some stuff. For example, here it says animated. So it says if true, alert will animate, and it's default to true. So if I click on this, and then you see the animation happening. So click here, you see that animation. So if I go and right on the top, I can say I don't want to I don't want it to animate. So I'll change the value animated to false, and I save the project, and I see if I click on that, no more animation should happen. So here I click, it pops up straight away. So there's no animation happening now. So you can see, you can read about these properties and customize your alerts, or you can customize any other UI component. So every time you want to use a button, an action sheet, alert, or card title, anything, the documentation of that technology is the best place to enhance your knowledge. So here we have a backdrop. I'm just going to copy that. Let's go back, and then here we define, let's just say backdrop dismiss. Is this the right key? So here it says backdrop dash dismiss. So we will do, actually let's not do that, we do something else here. Okay, backdrop. So if true, the alert will dismiss when the backdrop is clicked. Defaults to true. It's already true. We want to find overlay. That's gonna be basically it's gonna make the background a bit darker, so you can see the overlay there. Now these are all the properties that you can use to customize your alert. Also, if I will show you guys a few other things. So for example, here we have Ion button. So if you want to use a button in your application, you can simply use this Ion button. So let's take a look at how we can use that. Here we have a code snippet. So here I'll use Ion button with the color primary. Or let me just do success. Let's copy this, and then here we have some issues here, so I'm just going to remove this. Let's save the project and let's close some files here. We go to home.page.html file, and here I want to use Ion button with color success. I'll save the project, and you'll see our server restarts automatically and compiles our app and shows us this success button. Right now this button doesn't do anything. Let's take a look how we can improve this. Here we have a button type. We can define that as a button or bar. The color property we've already used here, and then we define its value success. This is how we can see this color success there. All the way down we have all the options. For example, we have the size. If you want to make your button larger or small, then you can define that. So here if I say size, which is a property, and I say large, and I press Command S to save the project, and it will recompile it, and we'll see the change. So here we have a larger button now. So you can use this documentation and then improve your knowledge about Ionic. So yeah, that's about it for this button. Or maybe last thing, we look at shape. You might like the shape. So here we have a property shape, and then that can only take this property. The possible values are round. Let's give it a round, and let's save it, and let's see if we get something different. So yeah, we have the round value there. So similar to this, we have badges. We can use this HTML. Also, all the time, please go inside API, which will give you a list of properties you can use for that UI component. You can look at what are the methods you can call on that. For example, we will do some method. So I'll go to alert, and we go all the way down. After the properties, we have events, which we'll talk about later. So here we can call the methods as well. We have these methods like dismiss, or we have this on, will dismiss. Basically, you can read that this is what's going to happen when you apply this to a button or any which can act upon it. This will dismiss the alert overlay. We're going to continue our Ionic adventure of components. So we've seen action sheet. I've explained to you how you can use alert, badge, button. Now we're going to go and complete our knowledge about UI components and some things that I want to talk to you guys about. So let's just say some of the components you see, we have HTML for that. So you can use these components. They are basically static components that can be used in your application, but some of the components are dynamically created. For example, if you want to create a checkbox, then you use this Ion checkbox and you define the properties which are available, and then you can do that. So here we can see we got all the tech checkboxes here that can be used. So if I go to API, and then I will see all the properties for checkbox I can use. So these are some of the code snippet that can be used, and it gives you some of the idea that how you can use these UI components in your application. For example, this one is dynamically done here. So here we have Ion list, which is another UI component. We have an Ion item. We use the Angular ng for array, and then we loop through to all of these checkboxes. Then you can see a bunch of checkboxes using this ng4. That's fine. So now let's take a look at our components back. So we have a date and time picker. So if I go date and time picker, you can see in a lot of applications that you have this kind of a date and time picker as well. So here we have a time picker, nicely done, and it will automatically adjust its UI according to the platform you're using. So we have a ANFAB 2019-90. So this is how you can use date and time picker. Now let me take you to the API. We'll take a look at some of the properties for date and time picker available, which is actually an important one because a lot of applications, pretty much every application has to work around date and time. So here we can see we can format our date and time by defining these values. So let's go and use this date and time picker, and let's take a look at how we can use it. So I'm going to take you back to the code. Let's just remove some of the button here. Let's save this project, and now let's learn from here. So basically we can do a date and time picker. I'm going to go and find basically this code snippet here. I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste that here. I'm going to save the project, and let's see if we are able to see date and time. So if I click on this, I see this, January 1, 18, and then time as well. So here you can see we have a property called display-format. Let's go back and we'll take a look at what are the properties available. So here we have ion date, and then we have a formatter that can be used. So here we have a format, and then basically for y defines year in 4 digits. 2yy define year in 2 digits. 1m define a month and in 1 digit. So let's go and take a look at and use this. So here we have a 4yy. I'm going to change that to 2yy, and then Control on the Windows and Command on the Mac. Press S to save the project. Let me go and just hide our project so we could see the whole code. If I click on this, now this time I should see a year in 2 digits. So you can format your date and time using all these values. So let's just say if I don't want to show the time here, I'll simply go and remove HH:MM, and I save the project by pressing Command S, and that should update our app and should only show me date with month, and then the day, and then year in 2 digits. So as you can see here, you can use these values and customize them into a date formatter. So here, it tells you how to use it. So you can see this property. Now, we can even format the picker as well. So here, if I change this format picker, and I'll just copy this property, and then let's just paste it here, and let's just save it, and let's see what happens now. Here we got an error with we losing 2 semicolons. So let's just save the project again, and let's see what happens now. Let's refresh, and let's see if we can see the changes. Okay, I'm gonna click here, and then now we have the picker formatter. We have a month, and then we have this 4YYY. Now if I change this to 2YY and then save this, now this year should be in 2 digits. So let's take a look. Now here you can see we have a January, a month, and then we have this 18. So you can format your date picker using this picker format property. Also, we have this date time data, which can be used to basically handling datetime values within JavaScript or in HTML. So basically go to this sample, and you can see what's available to you and what you can do. If I go all the way down, we have some min and max date times. For example, you want to define what's the minimum date year or what's the maximum. So if I go here, I'll just do, let's just say min is equal to, let's just say 2015, and before I save it, I want to test it. So I'll just do 3YY, 2 more YY, so we can see the year in basically in 4 digits. So I'll save it and I'll wait for it to restart, and I click on this, and now I can see I can only pick from 2015, not before 2015, because I've defined this property min. And similarly, I can define the property max as well. So right now max is 2018, but I can define max is equal to, let me go and find, so that's the date. We can do copy and we can paste it, and here I want to say, okay, let's just do 20. It's compiling, and let's go to the next century, guys. So here, that's the max, and then we can go all the way to 2015 as well. That's a date and time picker. If we go down, you will see a lot of usage, how you can use it, and sample codes. We have some properties, the cancel tags, day names, so you can customize this. This is really cool stuff here going on. I can't make everything available to you guys in just one video. I'll do a separate video just covering date and time. I'm going to close this and let's go to the Fab. Fab is another company which needs a separate video. So we go grid. If you're coming from Bootstrap background, you understand how you can define the grid. So I'm not going to go into details. Infinite scroll is one of the nice component that can be used for a lot of data processing. So you have like 100 entries. You can't show your 100 entries in small screen. So what do? You create an infinite scroll. So when people go all the way down, they can basically load more data, right? We have a generic input fields as well. So let me take you to documentation of input, and we'll use this. So let's go here, and now I can show you the code snippets. So for example, we have this. Let's just do something like a floating label. Let's just do copy this and then just paste it somewhere here. Let's save it and let's see what comes up. So here we have defined a label, Ion label, and we have an input. So this says a floating label. So if I click on that, that's the nice animation you see. This is what happens. So if I do like, remove this and I save this again, now I'm pretty sure you're not going to see that animation there. So let's just go click, and you can't click anymore because it's not going up. So you cannot have an input field there. So now you can see and read about this as well. Ionic input fields can allow text, password, number, search, tell. So let's do a number. So I'm going to change this back to floating position, and inside this Ionic input, I'm going to type is equal to, we'll do a number. I'm going to save, and now once I start tapping, I should see a number picker here. So you see this, I can pick the number from here. That's not really natively showing you how you can type the number, but once you open that in your mobile application, in your mobile, it will show you the numpad. So we can do something like a tell. Let's just change this to tell and save it. Let's see what happens now. So here I see I can define the alphabets also. I can define a telephone number. So yeah, that's you can use all this text, password, email, URL, and you can do a validation of that, which I'll have a separate video. Right, so I'm going to cancel out and we go to the next UI component. Now one of the component loading, which is great, So when you move around your applications from one page to another page, sometimes what happens is when you go to the next page, you have to make an API call, which will wait for the data to come back. Now, during the time, if you don't let the user know anything that what's happening, if the data is coming up or not, then that's really a bad thing to do to the user. So what we do, we create a loading. We tell the user, wait, hang on a second, it's loading the data and it's going to show that. So click on show loading and that should show something like this. And also if we go to API, we can change the design of it as well. So let me go and let's create a loading actually. So we'll do a loading by using loading controller. We create that similarly an async function and wait, and then we define a property duration and a message. We can also define what kind of spinner we want to use. So let me just copy this code from here and I will go and paste it in our home page.tsv file. Let's just TS file. So here we don't have a loading, so we're gonna go up there and I'm just gonna press enter and I'll do private. Now what was the name of that variable? So just do copy and I'll just do a paste here and then I'll do loading LOADing controller, and that's gonna come from Ionic Angular as well. So I'll just paste it here. Let's save this project. And also there's something wrong here, guys. So what we want to do is comma here when we define it more than one. We're injecting a service. All right, let's save the project. And now we're going to call this function present loading without option. So let's copy this. We go here, we create another button. So let me just make this smaller and we just copy this, we paste this button and let's just say loading action and we paste that. Oops, no, we need to go back. I'm just gonna copy this, let's go back here and paste it here. Let's save the project and let's call this function and then let's see if we see the loading or not. So if I click on loading, that should give me this loading here. It says loading, we have a spinner hide, duration 5 seconds, message please wait, it's a transcluent true, and if there's any CSS custom class, I'm just going to remove the CSS custom class and I'm going to remove this as well. Now let's try to find out what are the nice loading available for us. So we'll go here, we have this something like, okay, here goes. We have a spinner property and we can do lines, align small, dot, circle, bubbles. Let's do a bubble and then we do paste a bubble here and let's just compile and then refresh the page. Let's click here and then there you go. That's the bubble. Now we see the bubbles, yeah? So if we want to change this to, let's just say dots, let's copy this and let's just paste it here and save it and we should see a reload on the page and I'm going to click on that and we have dots now. So you see how cool animation that can be done using loading. Let's close this. You understand how to use it. There are some methods that you can call on this, like we did call this present method on the loading. We can call a dismiss method on the loading, which will dismiss the current loading happening. And the transcode property was there by default. So say if true, the loading indicator will be translucent. Defaults to false. Yeah, so that makes sense. We have a mode. We can define if it's a iOS mode or MD mode. Let's try that. So we'll do mode, I do MD and add a comma here. Let's save it and let's take a look if the mode makes any change to our UI of loading. Let's click on that. Now we seeing a rectangular loading box, which is good. Now it's not transcode, so we do something like transparent, and then we do true. Let's just do comma here. Let's save it, and then we should see a reload. Let's just click on that, and now we have some sort of translucent. So let's go back. I'm going to close loading. Let's go and let's skip menu, and let's skip the model as well. And also let's skip the navigation because that's a bit of lengthy component to explain. We have a pop over. That's just like a top header, which basically sees what's happening underneath. So if I go down, you see this text underneath. We have a range. Sometimes you want to increase or decrease the brightness of your iPhone or application. You can do this range as well and change the values dynamically. Refresher, as I said, with loader you can do a refresher, so you tap and slide down and then it will load more data to it, so you can call an event. So let's go to the API. Let's take a look at what we can do. So in the refresher provides pull to refresh functionality on a content component. The pull to refresh pattern lets the user pull down on the list of data using touch in order to retrieve more data. So we have this complete. So let's take a look at the usage now. So we will do all copy and paste this, and definitely you can tell that this is going to work. So this is what happening. Ion refresh, and then we do the refresh and we pass in an event. In our TS file, we have this function do refresh and then set timer to 2000. So this is how you can do a refresh and then do your logic in this refresh function. Okay, so there are some properties available for that as well. You can play with them. We have something called cancel, complete, and get process function, and they actually all makes sense by the name of the function. For example, cancel, it changes the refresher state from refreshing to canceling. That's okay. Complete, call it complete when your async operation has completed. For example, the refreshing state is while the app is performing an asynchronous function. So you can call this function as well. Get process makes really sense, straightforward sense. So let's cancel out, and then we go to search bar. Pretty simple, guys. Search bar is just, search bar, which can do some filtering as well, and Ionic basically provide an API for that as well. A select is something that you click and then you have an option to select, right? So we have December, we have two options to select. It's basically a selection of two. You can define more than two as well. Slides. Now, slides are great when you have an application starting for the first time in your phone. You want to be able to show some message or some tutorial to the user of that app. So slides are a great way to show that, and a lot of applications do that as well. Once you start your application for the first time, it will show you some slides with nice information. Spinner, we can see the spinner already. We have different types of spinner. Tabs, we skip the tab because we're going to be creating a separate video for tabs. Toast is something that will pop the message out for a specific amount of time. So similar, on a click event, it just shows you some of the toast that you can see. You can put the messages in that. That's very straightforward. Visual scroll, same thing, that you just go and scroll down, keep scrolling up to where you want to allow user to scroll to. That's good as well. So I'm going to show you a toast API. Let's go here, and here we can find really cool stuff. So we have a toast here which comes from top to bottom. We can see the properties. So here we have a property of animated, if you want to animate that or not. So we specify a property name animated, and then we put the value. It's a boolean, so either it takes true or false. Duration, we can specify the duration, and after this duration, the what do you call this? Ion toast will be dismissed. Okay, remote, overall index, position that you can define top, middle, bottom. If we have this it's in the middle, we have a top, we have a bottom. So you can define those positions by defining a position property and giving a value either top, middle, or bottom. So show close button, if you have a close button there, then you can basically show a close button. It doesn't show here, but you can define a show button. So by default, because you won't see a close button here. Right, we have some events as well. We got method similar to other UI component present. Will present this toast. On will dismiss. It returns a promise that resolves when the toast will dismiss. Dismiss actually dismisses the toast. And we have some custom CS properties as well, which we can use to customize the layout or look of that toast. So we pretty much covered all the basic UI components, and you understand how to use them by going and reading about the documentation in API page that can help you how you can customize those components. All right, so in the next video, we are going to create a layout with tabs and also with a sidebar. So far we have done about 9 videos of Ionic. So I think this is the right time we will use all that knowledge and create a UI for our project. So let me show you what we're going to be creating in this video. We're going to be creating this tab bar, and also this tab bar UI has a sidebar as well. So tab and sidebar is implemented in this UI. So we click here, we see the sidebar. We can go and click on that menu and go to the next page, or we can switch between these pages as well. Also, we have this nice action sheet implemented here. So having tab bar and a side menu side by side, it's quite complicated in Ionic 4. So before we start our video, guys, I want to show you guys my JavaScript course, which is available on Udemy. I'll drop a link of that course in the description below with the coupon, which will give you about 70% off. So please have a look if you're interested in learning JavaScript. Let's get started building this UI using Ionic 4, which includes a tab bar and a sidebar side by side. Right, guys, let's go and create a new project. We'll use a blank template and we'll work from blank template so we know everything which it takes to build that user interface. So let me just increase the font size here. So I'll do Ionic start and I'll do -- type would be Angular. And let's name our project Ionic tutorial. And then we're going to use a blank template. Let's integrate Cordova. And that's about it. It's going to take a few seconds before it generates a project. And after that, we're going to open that project in Webstorm. So now let's take a look at the blank project. So we've already seen that a few times, but this tutorial is going to be, I'm going to just, be quick as possible to create this UI. So let's go to the app, and here we have a main component app, and also we have a home component. Let's go to the terminal and start our application. So Ionic serve-l. It's going to ask me if I want to install Ionic Lab, which I'll say yes, please install. And then it's going to open the app in the browser. Right, so we have this app up and running. So first of all, we're going to go and implement a sidebar. So to implement sidebar, we're going to go to app component. And I'm just going to decrease the size here. And let's just do, okay. So in app component, to define the list of the side menu we need. So I will create a variable here and I'll name it public and I'll say app menu. So we created a variable which is an array, and it lists out 3 objects which we'll use to generate our side menu. All right, so let's go to app component HTML file, and inside this file, I'm going to start writing Ionic split pane. So we have a Ionic split pane, which will have like a split pane there. If you are a developer or you have worked on that, you should be able to familiar with that. So we have an Ionic split pane, and also inside this we want to create Ion menu, and inside the menu we will have a toolbar. So Ion menu, let's create Ion header first. So we have header. Inside this we'll have toolbar, and inside the toolbar we'll have Ion title, which will have title as a menu bar. So inside this we got the Ion menu, we got this Ion header, we got Ion toolbar, and inside Ion toolbar we wrote Ion menu. Now let's get out from the header, and then we do Ion content. So we do Ion content, and inside this we want to create Ion list, and inside the list we'll do Ion that menu dash toggle. We do auto hide here. Yep, let's do auto hide. We set that to false, and then we do ng4. Let's do asterisk here, ng4 is equal to let p of what is the name of the variable that we created? That was app menu. Let's go back to app component, and here we do app menu, and then we'll just let's just do something. Let's just use something here now. So do Ion item, and then we want to have this router direction implemented that we set is equal to root, also the router link. So we do router link is equal to, and here we want to use this as p.url. That's going to be our URL link. So that's our Ion item, and inside this Ion item we want to have a label. So Ion label, that can be p.label or title actually. Yes, that's the one. Let's save everything, and also the last thing we want to do is we want to move this Ion router outlet to inside this Ion split pane, and here we want to type main. We set that Ion router outlet main, so we'll save this, and now let's go through. So basically we have an Ion app, we have an Ion split pane, we have Ion menu, and then inside our Ion menu we have Ion header, and inside Ion header we have an Ion toolbar, and then the title, and then we did Ion content, we created Ion list, menu toggle, and then inside the menu toggle we created an Ion item, and then we defined the router direction to root, and also router link to p.url, and then we close this, we close the list. We got this Ion router module inside Ion split pane, and then we define this property main to our router module. Let's go and save this, and once we save this, you see there's nothing happened. The reason why we define all this in app.component, but we have not defined this into homepage, because when the application starts through lazy loading, it automatically goes to the home module and it opens up this home component. If you look at the routing module, you see that if there's no path, it'll go to the home. So let's go and use this menu to the home. So let's go in Ion title, we do something like our Ion header and Ion toolbar, we will use say Ion dash buttons. We do a slot of, let's just say start, so we want to push the button to the left, right? So let's close this, and inside this we just use Ion menu button. That's it. We save, and let's see what we have. So BO, not BO, we actually have a BU there. Let's save it again. Let's let it compile, and we should see Ion menu. So here you can see we have this, we click on this and it opens up, and we have this title, we have this text 2, we have this test 3. There we go. So we created our menu successfully. Now we can do some menu customization here. If we want to go back to app component, and here we can say the type would be overlay. So I'll save this, and let's take a look at when it gets compiled. And here we'll click, and you see this overlay here now. So we're getting like basically a backdrop kind of effect when your menu opens. Also, we can define icons here as well. So in Ion item, we can have, let's just say inside this Ion item, I want to do ion.icon, and then the icon would be, let me just grab that. So icon can be from the object as well. So we'll do a slot first. We set that to start, and then name of that, let's just do from p.icon. Let's save it, and now let's take a look at what do we get. So I'm just gonna make it smaller now, guys. I think it's already very big. So let's click here, and then here we see we are loading icons dynamically from our object. Alright, so now we have successfully done our sidebar menu. Let's work on a tab bar. So for that, I'm going to generate a new module. So I'll do Ionic generate, and I'll use this as, let's just say, a module should be fine. Okay, and then we'll name as tabs. Now it's gonna go and generate a module in the tab. There you go, we have a module there. Now inside this, we're gonna create another routing module. So I'll do Ionic G module dash routing, and then we do tabs. And let's take a look at if it generates a tabs routing module. It says could not generate module. It already exists. Okay, that's fine, but let me just get rid of this. Okay, we will look at app routing module. That's not there. That's cool. App module, that wasn't there as well. That is cool as well. So we do Ionic generate module dash routing. So what it will do, it will basically generate a module with routing as well. So here you can see we have a module, okay, and then it automatically imports tabs routing module, which we have here. And most of the work we're going to be doing in this tab routing module. But for that, we're going to need another TS file that is basically is going to help us to, do all the UI stuff, and also we can generate a fab module as well. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a file. So we'll do generate and dash flat, and then I'll do a component, and then we do tabs / tabs. Now let's take a look. So now we got a module. Let's take a look at the routing module. Let's look at the module. That's cool. We got tabs.component file as well. We have a tabs component file there as well. So that's cool, guys. Now we can start working on our tabs. So first of all, let's just go in the routing module, and here we want to define some sort of routing. After that, we want to make sure that our tab component is available in tabs.module file. So in the declaration, we're going to have tabs component injected. So I'm going to save the file, and now we're going to go to tabs.component HTML file and write our Ion tabs. here, I'm just going to make the size bigger. First of all, we'll do ion tabs and then ion.tab. Now in the tab, we're going to have some properties, let's say attributes. First of all, what would be the label? So we'll do a label, let's just say dashboard, right? And then we're going to do an icon as well. So here we'll do, let's just say home icon for now. Now here we're going to do an href is equal to, that would be tabs / home : home. Okay, now inside the tabs we want to have a router as well. So if you remember, in the tab routing module, we defined an outlet. So the name was home. So we simply go and say ion router -outlet, and then in there we want to have a name which set to the same name where we want to go to. I'm going to save the tab file, and after compiling the project, you should be able to see the tab. So here we have a home dashboard tab. So let's go and generate some more modules. So we're going to go to new terminal here, and I'm going to generate a page. So we'll do, let's just say a page. Select the page, and we'll do about us page, right? It will generate all the things that we need. Then we generate another page, let's just say contact. Okay, as you can see, we have two pages, about and contact, and now we're gonna inject that to routing module. So here we have two pages, about us and contact. So we basically don't want to do that here because we're not going to target them from app routing module. So we just want to Control X, we just want to move both and then paste them into tabs routing module. And now here we are going to define some more path here. So let's just take a look at a couple more things. So home page is basically coming from this path. So let's go to app module, and then first of all, let's import those modules here. So we do about, let's just say about us module, and then we have a contact page module. So we got two modules there. Now we go app routing. So now let's copy paste this. Let's copy and then paste this twice, and that would be, let's just say about, and then we have about, that would be about page as well. Okay, so basically we're saying path is about and outlet is about, and the component we're going to target is about us page, as we imported our module into the tab module, so we can target that now. Here we can say contact and then contact, and that would be a contact page, right? And we're gonna go to tab.component, and here I want to make a copy of these. So let's just do a copy of these. This is going to be about, icon is going to be about, this is going to be about the same. And now here we're going to go to tabs. So here in the tabs routing modules, we have this routing. So path is tabs, and then that's a tab component, which we basically having that the same folder. Now the children of those is this. So we have the children about us page, and a children is a contact page. And the reason why we can access this here is because we have imported both modules in our tab module. So here we want to go to, let's go back to here, and here we want to do tab / about. Here we want to do contact and contact. Let's make it a bit smaller. Let's just do
contact, icon, let's just do contact, and then contact as a router module. So I'm going to save the project now, and you will notice after getting compiled that you will have about and about. So if I click on about, it will go take me to contact page. I'm going to go change this to contact, and now the icon is not available there, so I'll just do chart. Okay, I will do the pie here. Let's just a random thing. Okay, I'm going to save the project, and now we can see we have about. Click here, it takes us to about us page. Click here, it takes us to contact page. Click here, it takes us to dashboard page. Now within those pages, if we want to see a menu bar, so we'll go to about page, and in the toolbar we'll do Ion dash buttons, and then we do Ion dash menu button. Okay, let me just make it bigger. So see, we have an Ion menu button and inside Ion button. So save it, and now let's go to about page, and we should see this sidebar there as well. So you have this sidebar there. We should be able to see the same sidebar here now. The same thing, we're gonna copy this and we're gonna go to contact page, and let's just do a paste here in the toolbar. Let's just save it, and now our tabs and sidebar menu is working. So here we go, contact page, we have a sidebar menu. If we go to about us page, we have a sidebar menu. So just to show you guys that this is right, so here we are at contact page. I'll do H5 and say this is the contact page, and then I'm going to just copy these. We're going to go to about page. I'm going to paste that here as well. I'm going to say about page. Let's save the project and let's take a look if we're actually moving to different pages now. So here we are in the about page. We can go to dashboard. We can go to contact page. Here you can see we have this menu bar as well. So this is how you can create an application using an application with tabs and also the sidebar menu. Now if you want to start your application with this kind of layout, then you can download this from my GitHub. It's just gonna be, you're gonna clone the repository, and there you go. You don't have to worry about adding all this boilerplate code. So you got this on my GitHub account, and I'll share the link with you guys as well. Alright, so this is how you can create a tab plus a sidebar menu using Ionic 4. I'm going to be showing you a cool trick in Ionic. So I started building an application using Ionic Framework recently, and I really liked it, but there were a few things that I wanted to enable for me to build the app faster in Ionic. So the first thing I would like to show you that how you can debug your application right in your IDE, whether it's a Webstorm or it's a VS Code. We'll look at a Webstorm in this video. Also, I would like to show you that how you enable Cordova in your browser so you can start debugging while having Cordova enabled. There were a few things that was not really working, so I had to find a trick or a way to fix that. Let's take a look at the problem first. So if I will go and start this app with Ionic Serve, that will open my browser, which you can see on the right, and it will start the application. So new application instance has been started, so I'm going to log in with one of the email address that I signed up with before, and I'm gonna say the password would be whatever the password, I type it in. Now if I click on login, it's not logging in. So let's take a look at the browser developer tools, and I'm just gonna push that a little bit to the left,
And now the error we're getting is, it says Cordonva Not Enabled, error in signing in, going to tabs page. Okay, so what happening is, when you use Ionic's native API, basically Ionic has an API which lets you access the device hardware. For example, if you want to access the camera on your iPhone using Ionic Framework, you're gonna have to have a Cordonva plugin installed so you could access that hardware. So if you don't have a Cordonva enabled in your browser, you can't do that. So this is the one problem. Another thing, that to fix it, you could emulate with the browser. So for example, I will go and I'll stop this. I'll say Ionic Cordonva emulate browser. Now, emulating on a browser will fix this Cordonva problem, but there is another problem with emulating browser, which is you cannot live reload. So whenever I change my code, it should reload the browser automatically and let me see the changes. That doesn't happen when you do Ionic Cordonva emulate browser. It does not really provide that. So that's the problem. So right now, if you look at the terminal, it's actually adding Cordonva plugins to the build. So you can start the browser with Cordonva installed. It's taking a bit of time when you start the first time. So I'm just gonna pause the video and come back when it's done. Okay, so emulating is started. Now I can see in the console, I can log in. So if I go to, for example, oas@gmail.com, I'll go type the password and I enter. And now I can log into the app, and here I can see that there's no Cordonva issue anymore. I can use Firebase plugin. I can use any external plugin which is required Cordonva. So let me go and sign out, and let's go back. So right now, if I would like to debug this page, which is running on localhost 8000, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go and edit the debugging configuration here. So I'll just go and paste it here, apply, okay. Now if I start the debugger and I'll try to sign in, and here I want to do a breakpoint. So if I click here, this is very init app, and I'll refresh this, you can see I can have this debugging enabled, right? Because our server was running 8000. So this is good, but I won't be able to live reload my application. For example, if I let it go and if I go to any of the page, for example, login page, and I change the name here from login to, let's just say ABC, and I save, and now you can see it actually broke the application. It did not reload automatically. So I'm going to stop the debugger, guys, and well, let's go back to this Ionic serve, and let's go to the terminal. Let's go here. I'm going to stop the server, and I'm going to simply say Ionic serve, and that should open the browser again, and it should give me a Cordonva error, but I will be able to live reload my application. Let's take a look. So I'm just gonna close these tabs, and here you can see I have ABC now. So if I go change this back to login and I hit Command S on a Mac, and I can see it's building and it's reloading the application. Now I want to have a Cordonva enabled here. So how do we do that? Is applying this trick. So what I'll do, I'll go to this platform where I actually build. If you do Ionic Cordonva platform add browser, and also you do Ionic Cordonva build browser, you will get this folder in the platform. So what I'll do, I'll just copy this www folder, and I go back and I just right click on the parent folder, which is XP logger right now, and I'll do just paste here. And I'm going to click OK, and it'll tell me, okay, you have the same names in the folder, which is basically having the same numbers in the next folder where you're copying. So I'm just going to do override for all. Now once I override everything, I would see that in our www folder, which is used to launch your application when you do Ionic serve, I'm going to just
expand that, and here now I have a Cordova. Before, I did not have a Cordova because when you do Ionic Serve, it does not really add Cordova stuff into www folder. So what I did was I applied a trick here where I emulated or built a browser project, and I copied over this Ionic, I copied over to www folder. So now if I go and start our application with Ionic Serve, and I should not see a Cordova error anymore. Let me just hang on a second. It will start the browser. Once it's started, let's go to the console and take a look at the app. Okay, so now this is running through Ionic Serve, and its live reload is enabled because it's from Ionic Serve. So let's take a look at the console. Yeah, right, I don't have any errors anymore. Can I log in using this Firebase? So I'll just do gmail.com. I'll do password. Let's enter, and there you go. The Cordova is enabled and it's working. Now, anytime I make any change, so let me go log out, and let's close this. And we have a Cordova enabled, and I can do a live reload as well. So I'll do Command S, and there you go. It's updating the application on the fly with live reload feature. And also you have a Cordova enabled. So the only time you will have to copy this platform www folder and override the outer www folder when you have another new plugin installed from Cordova. For example, you go and install a camera plugin which were not available before in your application, then you will have to build a browser project and then copy the Cordova or www folder into the outer www folders. Right now, if I just go and delete this folder, last thing we check. Okay, so I'm just gonna go and let's just delete this folder. Right, you can see that it had a Cordova there, but now if I do Ionic Serve, it will build this www folder for me, but it will not have that Cordova stuff in it. Let's take a look. So it's building. There you go. So right now we can see we have assets build index.html, and our index.html is actually expecting this Cordova.js, which is not available there, right? So what I'll do, I'll just go to platform and take a look at what we have in this folder. So the difference between this folder and this folder, it had this Cordova.js source files, a plugin folder, also Cordova.js file, and then Cordova plugin.js. So if you copy over these three folders and files, then it will start working with Cordova enabled in the application. And that was a cool trick. I tried to research online a lot how to enable live reload in browser emulation, but I couldn't find any, and I came to know that this is not enabled by Ionic team. So I figured out this trick that you could apply, and this is just a workaround. We're going to talk about Ionic Native. So Ionic Native is basically a wrapper for Cordova plugin that makes adding native functionality to Ionic app easy. So you can use a lot of native stuff by using Ionic Native. For example, you might want to access the camera on your device, so you can go and use a camera plugin. You want to maybe use, for example, you want to use a date picker, you can do that. So there's a lot of things available here, pretty much everything you will require to build any app. Now today we're going to be using native storage. So a lot of times you will need to store some information to your local device. So if you are running your application on iPhone, you might want to store something to iPhone. So for that, we're going to be using a native storage API. So native storage API stores variables in Android and iOS. So I'm going to take you to Webstorm and an app that we have. It's a blank template, and we're going to install a native storage plugin. So here, this is an app running. So we have a input field, save. We have a get button. So we can basically save something to native storage and then get it back. So what we want to do is I want to stop the browser and I want to emulate this.
to the iPhone emulator. So we're going to go and type in a terminal Ionic emulate, or we can say Ionic Cordova emulate iOS dash dash target, and I'm going to define iPhone, let's just say iPhone 8. Okay, now it's going to take some time and build my project. Let me take you back to Ionic Native and we can look at the documentation here. So here you can see you can install Cordova plugin by just typing this command into terminal, which will go and grab Cordova plugin for you, and then you can install npm install Ionic native storage at beta. Now I give you an example how you can use this native plugin, which basically makes our life very easy. I'm going to be making a couple of videos just to show you guys some tricky native plugins that require some instruction, but pretty much all of these you can use by just going to their API documentation and look at this usage section, which will pretty much explain to you how you can use this API and how you can customize it. It will tell you everything about this basically. So we'll go to native storage where it was here, and let's take a look at our emulator. It hasn't started yet, so all I'll do, I'll just copy this line of code here, and I'm just going to go and paste this into a terminal. Let me just copy this. I'm going to wait for emulator to start. Emulator has started. I can see the same app running in the emulator now. So you're going to have to use Cordova if you want to use native plugins in your browser, and you might have to do Ionic Cordova emulate a browser instead of using just Ionic Serve. So now I have these two functions, save to native and get from native. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to type something here and I'm going to save that to a native storage, and I'm going to click on get button and I want to get it back and just show that here. The next thing you want to do is you want to grab these two commands and paste them into terminal and install Cordova plugin and also install Ionic native storage. I've already installed those, so I'm going to go to a usage section now. Here you can use this function to set items, and you can use this function to get items. I've already written those, I pasted them and configured them. So we'll go to home.ts file, and here you can see we have imported first of all this native storage from native storage ngx as this usage said, and also I've added that constructor function here and implemented native storage into the constructor function. Then we have a title and then save to native and get from native. So this is the function that you write. And also what I want to do is when I save this a title key, when I'm getting back, I want to get back data.title. Also, the app won't work because you have to inject this native storage into your module. So we're going to go to app.module.ts file, and in the providers, I'm just going to type a native storage. So we'll just do native storage and then add a comma here. Let's save it. Now here it's causing an issue because it's coming from native storage. Native storage. We'll have an ngx as well. And now once type ngx, let's save the project, and you will see our app will be back on. So here now I want to type hello, what are you doing? And I'm gonna save this, and this time I'm gonna just remove this text within the input field, and I want to say gibberish. And when I click on this get, and then this method will be executed. So it will go and get me a title key from a native storage. So if I click on that, I should get back what's going on. Click on that, there we go. So you have a hello, what's going on. All right guys, so this is how you store values into your native storage, whether it's an iPhone or it's Android. All you gotta do is just use native storage, and it's just an object that gets stored in iOS and Android and even the Windows as well. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can debug your iOS emulator running your Ionic 4 application. So I've been doing Ionic 4 series, so this is where I would like to show you guys how you can debug your app running on an iOS emulator. Also, you can do the same thing when you're running your app on your device using a USB. So let's take a look at how you can debug. It's a little bit different than Ionic 3 debugging. So first thing you want to do is you want to start your emulator. You can do that by going to the terminal and going to your folder where your app is and typing command Ionic Cordonva emulate iOS and -- live reload if you want to live reload the server. So for example, if I here say, hey, I'm going to command S and it will reload the emulator and will have things applied. So I'm going to go back and change this. This is what just I wanted to show you that you can reload to your server. So now I'm going to go and open Safari. So here I have a Safari and here I'll see there's a menu called Develop. So if you don't see that, what you want to do is go to Safari, go to Preference, and go to Advanced, and then here make sure you have enabled Show Develop menu in the menu bar. And once you have that, you close this out and then click on this develop tool and then click on this simulator, and here you'll see if you have any emulator running currently. So you'll go to develop and go to simulator and then click on this 192.168.3.192. It will open up this Safari window, and here you have everything which is running on your emulator. So here, if you go to the sources tab, you will see a lot of files here, and these files seems like that files, but they have subfolder inside them. For example, right now I'm in tabs module, then I will find in the source tab there's something called tabs-tabs-module.js. Now in the code, if you take a look at, I have this app folder and I have this tab modules, and here I'm lazy loading in the tab module. Similar to that, if I look at here, I'll go inside the tab, and then inside the tab, I have all the pages related to tabs module, I have all the models related to tabs module, and I have the tabs related to tabs folder, which has some tabs files, for example, tabs.ts and also tabs.module. So basically in Ionic 3, you had to go to main.js and you'll go to next folder and then source and then app, and here you will see every single thing. But in Ionic 4, because we use Ionic lazy loading from Angular now, so Angular still has a different kind of lazy loading, so we use that in Ionic 4. That's why we have to basically load the module before we can see them in the sources tab. So here you don't see a login module. So if I go to user tab in emulator and I'll sign out, and that will log me in, log me out, and show me this login module, which is totally different thing. So now if I look at the sources tab, I see this login-module.js, and here I will have all the files related to this. So for example, in my login.page.html file, I should be able to see this sign in button, and the text should be sign in. So here, if I go and change this, let's just say, I can't change this here, but anyway, you can see the HTML right here. So if I go to login page.ts and I do a breakpoint here, so let me just do a breakpoint here, and I also do a breakpoint here. I'm going to go to emulator, I'm going to start typing some email address and then try to log into this app. I'm going to click on sign in, and you will see a breakpoint getting enabled. So here I can see I'm at this breakpoint right now. So it says this router.navigate by URL. So it's going to take me to tabs module now. So if I let it run, it'll take me to the tabs module. So you can see that you can basically do a breakpoint, but you have to load that specific module to be able to see that in the sources. So here I can see login now, I can see tabs module, and everything related to tabs modules are available here. So let's go back, and here I will show you some of the folder structure here. For example, in the tab module, if I click on this routing file, and I want to go, okay, if I go to charts page, I want to breakpoint here. So if you click on chart, it should breakpoint, but it wouldn't because it's not calling this object again and again. It already called for the first time. Let me just get out and I'll go to File, and yeah, there you go. So here we have a logit function. If I tap on this and if I click on click me, that will just log in here. So this is the function it calls when I click on click me. So here you can see you can log in and you can see what's happening here. I'm going to be showing you how you can debug your Ionic 4 application using a Webstorm. Webstorm has a great debugging tools. This is what I'm going to show you in this video. It's basically simple JavaScript debugging tool. Okay, so I'm in the project and I have my app running here. Let me go and start the server. I'm going to go to terminal and I'll say Ionic serve. And it's going to start the server on port 8100 on localhost. And I can see, there you go, I have app starting, localhost 8100. Now once that starts, I want to go and configure my debugger in Ionic. So I can go to tools, and here I will have, actually we can go from outside. So here we have a debugging tools. So I'm going to go to click here and click on edit configuration. I'm going to delete one of them I have already. So I click on plus, and then I go to JavaScript debug. And here I'll name it Ionic 4 debug, and I want to target the URL, which is basically localhost 8100. So that's localhost colon 8100, and that's it. I'm going to apply that. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go back to this edit configuration one more time, and you can see it automatically applied this HTTP : // That's fine. Click OK. Now here, I want to click on this green button and it will start the debugger. Now another thing we want to make sure that we have is called JetBrains IDE support extension in Chrome. So if I go to new tab, let me show you here. As you can see here, it says waiting for connection from JetBrains IDE support. Okay, that's not an install. So what I'll do is I'll go to Chrome Web Store. And here I will search for JetBrains, and that's going to be this extension, JetBrains IDE support. Click on add to Chrome and you will be adding this to it. So I have actually already installed that, but I will have to enable it. So I'll go to more tools and go to extensions, and here at the bottom I can see this is JetBrains IDE support is installed, but it's not enabled. So I'm going to click on enable button. It will start my application in Chrome browser with JetBrains IDE support. Right now I can see the debugger has started. I can see the console, which I used to see in browser. I can have this debugger tools where I could do breakpoints, enable and disable breakpoints. Also I could just have like a next button here. So let me go and first of all log in here. So I'll do always at gmail.com. This is not my real ID, guys, so don't try to message me here. I'm going to click on sign in and it will sign me in, and after I log into application, well, it's not signing me in. Let me check. I think I have a wrong email ID and password, so I'll click on sign in again. Now there you go, I'm in my app now. So here I want to go to this click button where I could log something, and also I could do a breakpoint there. So I'll go to this where is it, home.page.ts, and hit the button called console log hello. This is what this button does. So I'll click on this, and once I click on that, I can see it's basically using this breakpoint in my IDE. So this is gonna save you tons of time, because you're gonna save a lot of time by going to the browser, going to the source, and going to do all the breakpoint. So you're writing a code, you can do a breakpoint right being in your IDE. Now let me give you a quick tour of this debugger tool. First of all, we have this button here, which basically says resume program. The shortcut key is Alt Command R. I'm going to click on that and it will resume my application. Now let's go to another page where I sign in. So I'll go to login page, and here this is the function that gets called when I click on the sign in button here. So I'm going to click login here, and I want to click here to breakpoint, not login actually, breakpoint. So I'll just type in my email address, and I'll do hello 123, and that should breakpoint here. So here I can see and breaking point, and right now I can see what's in my email. So if I click on this, that shows me awais@gmail was passed into this function. What is the password? That's hello123. That is okay. And also if I go and resume my application by clicking on this button, and that will go and log, it will breakpoint here. So now it will take me to this router.navigate by URL, and I can see if I just let it go by clicking on this button, that will take me here. Okay, so now I have a lot of buttons here. I have this current user. So let me find this current user function, which should be in our users page, and that will show me what is the current user. So here I'll do a breakpoint, and then I'll click on current user, and that should breakpoint here. Okay, let's go. So in the user response from this function, if I hold over, it says Cordonva Not Available. That's fine because I'm not running this on Emulator. That's all it will basically show me. So if you go to a debugger, you have this overview of local variables, whatever the values are currently they're holding, which is great. Also, you can do right click and you can say add to watcher. Add to watches. So every time this application runs and pass through this function, you will see this variable getting filled in with the current value of that variable. All right, that was a quick introduction to debugging in Webstorm. I'm going to be showing you how to use this HTTP plugin from Ionic 4 library. So I'm in right now a native API section, and here we have this HTTP. Also, I want to mention that you could use Angular HTTP client module to do your HTTP calls, but by using this, you're going to get some benefit. For example, you're going to get this SSL pinning. Also, we have this background threading. All requests are done in a background thread. So there are some benefits using this native plugin. So yeah, let's go and take a look how we can use this. I'm going to take you to Webstorm, and here I have the application Ionic Native, which we were using in the last video. So first thing what we want to do is we want to import this plugin to our module. So we can do that by importing that plugin, but remember to install it as well. So here we have two commands. You have to just copy this line of code. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go to terminal. I'm going to paste that and press enter, and it's going to install this Ionic Cordonva plugin, and also it's going to install Ionic plugin -advanced HTTP. Also, we want to install this Ionic Native HTTP beta. I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that here. I'm going to press enter, and it's going to install that plugin as well. So the next thing, we want to go to take a look at our application. So right now in home.page.html file, I have this get button, which calls this function get request, right? And then we have this another request object. So we go to home.page.ts file, and here you guys can see we have this request object, and also we have a get request which doesn't have anything yet. So first thing, let's import our HTTP. So we'll do import, and I'll do HTTP. We'll import from Ionic Native, and also wanna, add this /ngx. So if you take a look at, we have this usage section which tells me it is /ngx. So I've got that here, and now I need to add this HTTP module into our products, or you can call it a service. So we can directly inject that into home.module.ts, or you could add that into app.module as well. So it's okay to add in home.module.ts, and if you want to use this HTTP throughout your application, you're better off adding that app.module.ts, because you can use this into any module later on, because that's the parent module. So if you inject that into a parent module, you'll be able to use that in any child module. So we're gonna go and add that to home.module.ts file. I'm gonna press enter here, and I'm gonna say providers, and provider takes an array. We'll do HTTP, and then also from HTTP, then we're gonna add a comma here, and also I wanna add this /ngx. Now it's all good now, guys. So let's go and write a function here which will help us to do a get request using that plugin. So we have this HTTP here. I want to inject that into a constructor, so we'll do private HTTP and then HTTP. Now inside this function I want to use this .http.get method. So get method requires three things: URL, parameters if there's any, and header if there's any. So we'll do just a simple URL. Now I needed to have a server running to do API call. So instead of running my own server, I actually found this JSON placeholder. It's a fake online REST API for testing and prototyping. So that means I could just use this. So it allows us to do post request, a get request, a put request, and a delete request. So this is basically if we can test our front end, if our HTTP methods are working or not. So let's take a look at the first one. This is a URL that we can call using HTTP module. So I could use this fetch, but we're using HTTP advanced plugin from Ionic or Cordonva. So here I want to type a URL. I'll paste that here and then a comma, and I'll just pass in an empty object. It requires two parameters. We can just do an empty one. Now it's a promise, so we're going to go to next line and we're going to handle that with then, and then I'll say if I get the response back, then I want to set that response to request object. So this request object is equal to response.data. So if we take a look at the documentation of Ionic, so when we get back, we get the data back. So we get the response and we have three things: status, data, and headers. We can take a look at later on, but let's take a look at what data we get back. I want to handle the errors. So I'll go to the next line. I'll say dot catch, and if there is an error, then I can just set that this request object, and we can just set that to error as well. So we'll see errors there as well. So now when we get the response back from this call, we save the data into request object, and request object is injected in our HTML file, which you will see what is the request object you're getting. So let's go to terminal and let's start our emulator. So I want to do this Ionic Cordonva emulate iOS -- target is equal to Ionic iPhone 8 and then -- library load. So I'm going to just press enter here and we will wait for our emulator to start. So our application is started. I'm going to go and click on this get button. Okay, cool. So we got this user1, ID1, a title delete us AUT. It's just a fake data. Okay, I'm gonna go to this JSON placeholder and I'm gonna do a same call here. I'm gonna click on try and let's see what we get. So we got user1, ID1. Okay, so that means we're actually getting the same data. We're getting the data from here. So if I go to, for example, introduce, let me see if I can have any other call. So we'll just let's go to post, and then we can do a request for a post as well. Okay, so we'll do a post for that's a lot of posts. That's like 100 posts that I don't wanna do that. So if I go get post 1, which will return me this. So let's go and change this. So we'll go to home.page.ts and I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna copy this URL and I'm going to paste that here. I'm gonna save it, and now we'll just get our emulator up and I'm going to click on the get again, and this time I get this user ID, title, son. Oh, right, so we're getting the post now. Another thing to notice here, guys, this is coming from HTTPS, which means that we are actually doing this through SSL. So it's a secure API call. So this is good. So if you use the HTTP client, which is in Angular, you will have to write some code or you will have to enable SSL manually. So this is how you can use HTTP module to do your calls. Also, I want to show you that you can do this post request, you could do this delete request, or you could do this put request as well. So if we go to JSON placeholder, we go back and I'm going to go and find any post request. So here I have a post request. That's post. yeah, so you could do basically post requests. That's going to be a very long video, but you're going to give a try. And basically what you want to do is you want to provide these parameters. So we do a URL, which would be this /post, and then that body. If you want to add anything into your body for the post, then we have to define the headers as well, and that will just make a post request. I'm going to be showing you how to use this SMS plugin from Ionic 4 library. So let's say in your application sometimes you want to send an SMS message to a particular number and you don't want a user to go and open their SMS application and then type their number and then type the message there. So instead what you want to do is you want to create a button which will take them to SMS application, also type the message there and also add the number there as well. So we're going to learn how to achieve that using this SMS plugin, and this plugin is supported for Android, iOS, Windows 8 phone as well. So first thing what we want to do is we want to install this Ionic SMS plugin. I'm going to go take you to my terminal. I'm going to paste this here and press enter on the terminal. That will be installed. Then we go install npm install SMS beta. Then we go paste that as well. Okay, so next thing, I want to inject this SMS plugin to home.module.ts file. So this is a module for my home.page.html and home.page.ts. So I'll just inject that here. So let's go top. I'm going to type import, and then we'll do SMS, and then we want to add this /ngx. Okay, so that's been imported. Let's inject that into the providers. So we'll do here SMS. I'm going to save this module file in home.page.html file, and here I want to create an Ion button, and that button will say send SMS, and when I click on that, I want to call send SMS. That's it. And now let's go to our home.page.ts file, and here I have done a few things. So I've imported that plugin there and I've added that into a constructor. So that's just there. So now we're going to create the function. So I'll just say send SMS, and then inside this I'll simply call this .sms.send method, and that send method will require two parameters. First one is a phone number, and the second one is a message. Okay, so let's type the phone number. Okay, so I'm going to save this file as well. Now I have run this application with Ionic serve-c, and I'm going to show you guys that application running on Ionic Dev app. So let me just bring up my screen. This is an application running, so we're going to tap on send SMS now. So if I tap on send SMS, it will open iMessage app and it will add the number there, and also it will have this message already written for me. So this is cool if you want to provide this functionality, so you don't want to your customer or app users, you don't want them to type this long message and type your number, so you can get them to send you a message directly by just simply tapping on this send button now, and you do the hard work. I'm going to be showing you guys how you can use native API from Ionic 4 library. Now I've given a tutorial of a couple of API in our tutorial series for Ionic 4, but also there's a lot of APIs that are available you could use from Ionic 4. For example, you have a 3D touch. So if you want to write an application for iOS and you want to do something with 3D touch, you can go to 3D touch documentation and read about it. Usually Ionic documentation is really great for every API or for every native plugin. For example, here in 3D touch, it tells you how to use this plugin. So it's basically now up to you to improve your knowledge in Ionic 4. So if you want to go and study further about native API, you can go to any of these API and then go and read the documentation. And so far, whatever we have learned in Ionic 4, you will be able to use any of these API by just going to this page and then just clicking on that. For example, the device API is pretty simple as well. All you gotta do is just install the plugins and then import in your module and also import in your TS file wherever you want to use it, and then you can call all of these instance members. So you want to use model, platform, serial, UUID, a version, whatever you want to get from it, you can use this device plugin to do that. So that's it for Ionic 4 tutorial series, guys. This is the last video for Ionic 4, and I hope you liked the tutorial series, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next series. Thanks for watching, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you guys later.